Have you ever noticed how some folks seem to earn even more respect the older they get? If you're in your 70s, 80s, or beyond, you might wonder if people still take you seriously. Some seniors feel invisible, like their wisdom and presence go unnoticed. But the truth is, for many, the opposite is happening. There are men and women in their 80s who walk into a room and instantly command quiet admiration. Not because they're loud, not because they demand attention, but because of who they've become over time. This video is for you if you've ever asked yourself, why do some people gain more respect with age, while others seem to lose it? We're going to walk through 4 powerful reasons why people respect you more after 80, reasons that go far beyond titles, money, or status. These are timeless truths, drawn from wise elders who've lived long, thoughtful lives. And the best part? You don't need to change who you are to earn this respect. You just need to recognize what's already growing inside of you. So stick with me. What you're about to hear might just shift how you see your own worth and how others see it too. Number 1, emotional stability. One of the greatest reasons people begin to respect you more after 80 is your emotional stability. At this stage in life, you've been through decades of challenges, losses, gains, health scares, family conflicts, economic changes, and through it all, you've developed a calmness that younger folks simply haven't had time to earn. People around you sense this. When everyone else is worried about the latest crisis, you're the one sitting there with a quiet understanding that everything passes. You see, emotional stability is something that cannot be faked. It comes from being weathered by life. You've lived long enough to know that most things that feel like the end of the world are not. And when people feel your calm presence, they instinctively trust you more. They lean in when you speak. They value your input, and they look to you for steadiness in moments of uncertainty. Why does this happen? It's psychological. As humans, we're drawn to those who make us feel safe. And emotional safety is one of the most underrated currencies of respect. When someone speaks with composure instead of panic, when they listen without judging, when they respond without overreacting, that person earns respect. Not because they try to control others, but because they have learned to control themselves. Let me tell you a story about a man named Harold who turned 83 last spring. His daughter, Julia, had just lost her job and called him in tears. While others in the family were frantically offering solutions, Harold simply said, "Let's take a deep breath first. We'll figure this out." And that moment calmed her down more than anything else. She later told a friend, "I don't know what it is about my dad, but when he speaks, I feel like everything will be okay." That's not just fatherly comfort, that's earned emotional weight. And people deeply respect it. At 80, you're not just older, you're seasoned. You've stopped reacting to every little thing. You've learned that silence can be wiser than speaking, and that not every battle is worth fighting. And that emotional balance becomes something others admire, even if they don't fully understand why. So if you ever wonder whether your presence still carries weight in a room, remember this: your calmness is not a lack of passion. It's proof of maturity. And people, especially younger generations, crave that more than they realize. Emotional stability doesn't just make life easier for you, it makes you a pillar for those around you. And that earns a level of respect that no loud voice or quick opinion ever could. Number 2, refined judgment. Another reason people often respect you more. Another reason people often respect you more after 80 is because your judgment becomes sharper, not just from knowing more, but from having learned what truly matters. Over time, you've developed a way of seeing through distractions, weighing what's important and what's just noise. That kind of clarity is rare, and people around you can feel it. When you're younger, decisions are often made in a rush, influenced by pride, urgency, or emotion. But after 80, your choices tend to be slower, more deliberate, and rooted in experience. You've lived long enough to understand the long-term consequences of impulsive thinking. And that steady perspective shows in how you respond to challenges, often with fewer words, more listening, and a deeper sense of what really needs to happen. You see, good judgment doesn't come from always being right. It comes from being wrong, learning, and adapting. And you've done that more times than you can count. You've learned to trust your instincts, to observe more carefully, and to see the patterns others miss. People notice that. They begin to seek you out when they're unsure, because you don't just offer opinions, you offer grounded perspective. Psychologically, this is known as crystallized intelligence, the kind of intelligence that grows with age and experience. It's your ability to draw from everything you've lived through to make sound decisions today. And studies show that older adults consistently score higher in areas like moral reasoning, social judgment, and emotional discernment. Let me tell you about Edward, who's 85 now. When his grandson was debating whether to leave a stable job to chase a dream, the whole family had strong opinions. But Edward simply asked, "What do you want to remember when you're my age? That you played it safe? Or that you tried?" That question didn't come from logic alone. It came from a life of knowing that regrets are heavier than failure. And his grandson later said it was that one comment that gave him the courage to move forward. You see, your judgment becomes more than just advice. It becomes a compass for others, a quiet assurance that no matter how chaotic life gets, there's wisdom available if we're wise enough to listen. That kind of guidance is deeply respected, not because it's loud, but because it's lived. So if you ever wonder whether your way of seeing things still holds value, know that it absolutely does. Your ability to cut through confusion and offer clarity is a gift. It's something the world needs more of. And after 80, it's one of the most powerful forms of respect you'll ever earn, because people don't just hear your words, they feel the truth behind them. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Number 3, graceful wisdom. Another reason people respect you more after 80 is your graceful wisdom. Not just because you've lived through a lot, but because of how you carry those lessons with dignity, humility, and heart. Wisdom isn't just about knowing things. It's about knowing what really matters and letting go of what doesn't. At 80, you're no longer trying to win every argument or prove your worth. You've already done that. Now you're living proof that wisdom is less about talking and more about listening. You see, wisdom in your 80s doesn't shout. It whispers. It shows up in how you respond to life, not in how loudly you declare what's right or wrong. And people, especially younger ones, sense that. They feel that when you speak, it comes from experience, not ego. And that's why they lean in a little closer when you start a sentence. Because they know you're not just reciting advice, you've lived it. There's something deeply compelling about someone who's made peace with life's imperfections, who understands that not everything needs to be fixed. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is sit beside someone in silence and simply be with them. That's graceful wisdom. It's not always flashy, but it's always felt. Psychologists often call this stage of life a time of ego integrity. That means you've woven together the joys and regrets of your life into a story you can live with, a story you're proud of. And when you've done that, something shifts in you. You become more forgiving, more open, and more generous with your presence. That depth of perspective is rare, and people respect it deeply, even if they don't always know how to say it. Let me tell you about Margaret, who recently turned 87. She lost her husband years ago, lives alone, and has been through her share of hardship. But every Wednesday, she bakes a pie and brings it to the community center. Not because she has to, but because she wants to. One day, a young volunteer asked her, "Aren't you tired of doing things for others?" Margaret just smiled and said, "No, dear. The more I give, the lighter my heart feels." That's not just generosity, that's wisdom with grace. And everyone who meets her leaves feeling a little more human. What makes this kind of wisdom even more powerful is that it's earned. You didn't read it in a book or hear it in a podcast. You learned it by falling down, getting back up, loving deeply, grieving deeply, and choosing peace when anger would have been easier. And when people see that in you, they don't just see age, they see a teacher, a guide, someone they trust. So if you've ever wondered whether your quiet insights matter, let me assure you they do. You are the wisdom keepers of our world. And not because you demand to be listened to, but because when you are listened to, lives change. That's what makes your voice after 80 more respected than ever. Number 4, quiet presence. One of the most powerful reasons people respect you more after 80 is because of the quiet presence you bring into every room. You no longer need to speak loudly or take charge to be noticed. Your very presence does the work. It's the kind of respect that comes not from noise, but from stillness. And that stillness is something only time and life experience can build. You see, as you grow older, something beautiful happens. Your energy becomes more grounded. You've learned how to sit with silence, how to hold space for others without always filling it with words. When you walk into a room, people might not immediately realize why they straighten up or quiet down, but they do. That's because your presence has become steady, calm, and commanding in a gentle way. There's a kind of quiet strength that comes from having lived through so many seasons of life. You felt the full spectrum of human experience, losses and joys, successes and disappointments. And through it all, you've developed a deeper sense of who you are. That inner peace doesn't need to be announced. It simply shows in how you carry yourself, how you look people in the eye, how you listen without interrupting, and people feel it. I remember a man named Leonard, now 85, who never spoke much at community gatherings, but whenever he entered the room, the mood shifted slightly. Not because he was famous or loud, but because people knew this was someone worth listening to. And when he did speak, even if it was just a few words, people leaned in. Not out of obligation, but out of genuine curiosity and respect. That's the power of quiet presence. Younger people especially notice it, even if they don't say it out loud. In a world filled with constant noise, phones buzzing, news blaring, conversations overlapping, your stillness stands out. It's almost like a reminder of what they're missing: peace, patience, and the ability to just be. That contrast draws them in. And even if they don't fully understand it, they instinctively admire it. And let's not forget, quiet presence doesn't mean you're passive or withdrawn. It means you choose your moments. You know when to speak and when silence carries more weight. You've learned that the loudest voice isn't always the wisest, and that true leadership often looks like being the calmest person in the room. That's a kind of leadership that inspires, not intimidates. So if you've ever worried that you're fading into the background as you age, remember this: your presence matters more now than ever. Not because of how much you say, but because of how you make others feel when you're near. You are a source of calm, a symbol of strength, a living example of what it looks like to age with dignity. And that quiet presence earns a level of respect that no speech or title ever could. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 4 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Final thoughts. If you're over 80 or even just nearing it, I want you to know something deeply important. Your life still holds immense value, not just to you, but to the people around you. Respect at this age isn't something you demand. It's something you embody. It grows from how you've lived, how you treat others, and how you carry yourself even when no one's looking. These 4 reasons we've talked about aren't abstract concepts. They are lived truths, etched into your being, visible in your eyes, your words, your stillness, and your laughter. You don't have to prove anything anymore. If people respect you now, it's not because of your achievements, titles, or trophies from long ago. It's because of the energy you bring into a room, the calmness you offer in the middle of chaos, and the clarity you provide when others feel lost. Your presence alone is often enough to remind people what really matters in this noisy, fast-paced world. And if you've ever felt overlooked or dismissed because of your age, I urge you, do not internalize that. You are not invisible. You are not irrelevant. In fact, the very qualities that make you different are the same ones that make you indispensable. Your strength, your kindness, your hard-earned wisdom, they are the bedrock of families, of communities, and of our collective humanity. One of the greatest gifts of aging is that you begin to care less about what people think and more about what you know to be true. You've learned to filter out the nonsense and focus on what's real: love, connection, peace, and purpose. And in doing so, you become a kind of lighthouse for those still trying to find their way. So walk tall, speak with kindness, and rest in the quiet confidence that comes from a life well lived. Your dignity, your resilience, and your presence, these are the things people will remember. And these are the things that, after 80, inspire a level of respect that can't be faked, bought, or borrowed. It's earned, and you've earned it. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.